Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. Today we'll be creating this city skyline inspired cake with a fun watercolor effect on fondant. To start off, I'm creating the Crescent Moon. We want this to have enough time to dry solid, so I've taken some yellow fondant, rolled it about a centimeter or so in thickness, cut out a circle, a smaller circle again to create that crescent. I want it to be a little bit bigger, so I went for a larger circle cutter. And you'll notice it's sitting on some non-stick baking paper. This just makes it a lot easier to lift off afterwards. Take 2 skewers and then feed them through the base of the moon, giving them a bit of a twist as you press them in, and allow that to dry for a few hours if you can, or overnight. Take a 10-inch cake board, add some ganache, apply your first layer of cake. I'm using a butterscotch flavored cake and I'm filling in with butterscotch frosting. This is just regular buttercream that I use, and I've just added the flavoring and stirred it through. Make sure that you knead it up with that line of ganache, and that's basically going to seal our buttercream within the cake and none of it will escape to the outside. That's really important. I find that sometimes when I try to cover a cake in ganache, if there's buttercream already on the outside, it doesn't stick as nicely and it's really irritating. Once all of your cake layers have been stacked, cover with ganache. You could do a crumb coat, pop it into the fridge, and then create a second layer of frosting. However, because I know it's going to have the fondant over top, I'm just going to do one whole thick coat of ganache. Starting from the very top and then working my way down to the bottom. Once it's nicely covered, you can take your bench scraper and travel around the cake, scraping off and filling in by pressing the ganache in areas where it's missing. Add more ganache as you need, and then when you're happy with the finish, take a super hot knife, run it under some hot water, and then cut off the very top edge. You can pop your cake into the fridge first so all your ganache sets nicely, and that way it's a lot easier. My cake was nice and cold already, so the ganache set pretty quickly. I'm just taking my spatula, running it over the top to clear up any of those little frilly sections that might be standing up. And then I'm popping it into the fridge to set now for 20 minutes. In the meantime, we can prepare our fondant. This is Bahh's fondant, just a regular one in white. I've taken some cornstarch on my countertop to make sure that it doesn't stick. If it feels like it's sticking, you can flip it around and add another layer of cornstarch just to make sure that it's being rolled out evenly. Once it's about 3 or so millimeters in thickness, she is ready. Sometimes you get these little air bubbles. You can pop them sideways with a pin and then press out the air with a fondant smoother. Drape it over your now nice and firm ganache covered cake. Take a fondant smoother, press out the air from the top, and then massage the very top edge onto your cake. That way it secures it on there. That's probably the one spot where it's going to rip or tear more easily. So you want to make sure it's nice and secure on there. Undo those pleats, massaging the fondant onto your cake until you reach the very bottom. Once it's there, make sure to massage it right at the base so that it sticks to the very bottom of the cake. Grab a fondant smoother and start smoothing it out. I like to bounce it right at the base as well, just to be extra certain that it's secured on there. And then take a sharp knife, run it along the edge of the base of the cake to cut off the excess. And you can knead this back to a soft ball and wrap it in Glad wrap and pop it into an airtight container for later use. For the sharp edges, I take 2 fondant smoothers and I like to clap them together at the very edge of the cake. Just like so, with circular motions, and it kind of pinches that fondant for you and creates nice sharp top edges. Continue to smooth around the sides and the top, and when you're happy you can start painting. This is gel food color in electric purple and teal green by Chef Master. I've taken these little cotton buds into the paint, and that was just rose water that I added, and pouncing it onto my cake. I do have a little plastic acetate sheet that I roughly cut out scallops into, just to resemble clouds, and then just pouncing on the scallop edge and half on the cake. to create a bit more shape. Go in with the purple halfway up. And you could do this in a few different layers if you wanted, and that way you have more of a blended watercolor look, or you could just leave it as is. After 15 minutes it was nice and dry, and I'm adding on my stencil. You can buy a cityscape or city skyline stencil online. They're pretty easy to come by. I designed this one here on Illustrator because I didn't have one. I didn't have time to go out and buy one, so I just laser cut this one. Take some edible gold paint and a large brush and brush downwards, starting on the acetate and then working onto the cake. This will create nice, sharp, clean edges around your stencil when you remove the plastic. To create the paint, I've taken edible gold luster dust and I mixed it in with some rosewater spirit. If you can't use rosewater spirit, you can use white vinegar or lemon juice instead. When you're happy with the look, reposition your stencil overlapping slightly and continue. I like to leave it halfway down the stencil, and I didn't cover the bottom of the cake. I really like that wispy sort of effect, like it's a ghost city of some kind. I don't know, I just really like that effect, so I kept it that way. Continue this all around the cake until you meet up with the edge of the city so that there's no spaces in between that are empty. Then take a ribbon, wrap it around the base, cut it a little bit longer so that it overlaps, and then pop a pin over the two overlapping sections to secure it on there. Our moon has been resting the whole day now, so I can pop it into the cake, and I'll paint this gold to match the cityscape. If you're enjoying these tutorials, feel free to subscribe. We do upload a new video every week. I went around the sides, the inside and the back of the moon as well, just to make sure that it all looked uniform. And as a finishing touch, I've taken some fondant, rolled it into different sized balls and just kind of bunched them all together on either side of the moon to look like clouds. When you're happy with the positioning and the sizes of everything and how it's been arranged, take a little bit of water or edible glue and stick them to each other and also to the top of your cake. And that's how it's done. You could also use a stencil and fill in with buttercream instead the whole way through. That way it looks kind of raised. I just really wanted to try out this wispy cityscape, and I think it turned out pretty cool. Pretty happy with the effect of it all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you give it a go, and if you do, I'd love to see it. #Rosie's Dessert Spot. And that's it. Thanks again for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.